Meeting to order on Friday, November 16th at 1 p.m. Emily, can you please call the roll?
Sure. Christine Barr.
Here.
Dave Barry.
Here.
Sue Bustenbark. Michael Campbell. Gwen Gregory.
Here.
Liza Hickey.
Here.
Jay Caston.
Here.
Paul Mills.
Here.
Scott Poynton.
Here.
Daisy Porter Reynolds. Here. Dee Reynolds. Nadia Shake. Michelle Simmons. Michelle?
We know you're there.
We saw you. Tom Stagg.
Here.
Laura Turner.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Okay. Okay, let's go to recognition of guests and announcements. We will start here in East Peoria with guests.
Hi, I'm Kendall Orison, and my announcement is if you hear lots of banging and clanging, they are taking out all of the movable shelving just on the other side of that curved wall there. And it's been somewhat noisy and loud all day, so you may hear some of that coming through.
Okay, thank you, Kendall. Do we have any guests in Bolingbrook? Cole Valley? Illinois State Library?
Hi, this is Karen Egan from the Illinois State Library.
Deborah Aggert.
Greg McCormick.
Gwen Harrison. Good afternoon.
Okay, thank you. Good afternoon. Monmouth College? And Galesburg. Okay.
We
There is a guest in Cole Valley, I think.
We do.
Unless I missed Carolyn.
So
Is that you,
yes, we have a
Carolyn?
guest.
She's muted, probably.
Okay.
Burr Ridge guest.
Okay.
Then we have a lot of,
And guests in Burr Ridge.
Emily Feister Rails.
Jane Class Rails.
Mark Hatch Rails.
Ainsley Jones Reels.
Jim Krieger Rails.
Mary Witt Rails.
Ryan Heppel Rails.
Joe Philippek Rails.
Deirdre Brennan Rails.
Okay, and now on to public comments. Do we have any public comments in Cole Valley? Illinois State Library?
I'm sorry, we were having some technical difficulties. Did you have a question? I'm sorry.
Just if there were any public comments?
No.
Okay. And public comments in Burr Ridge? Right. Hearing none, we will move on to the adoption of the agenda. May I have a motion and a second for the adoption of the agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Okay. It's hard for me to know here who's moving and seconding. I think that was Dave, but I couldn't catch the second.
Daisy.
It was Jay and Daisy.
Okay,
Right?
thank you. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carried. We'll move to the approval of the Rails Board minutes, financial reports, and expenditures. Emily sent a revised version of the draft minutes. May I have a motion for the approval of the minutes of the October 26th Rails Board meeting?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor say aye.
I'm sorry, I
Aye.
have one correction.
Oh, okay.
I thought we'd ask for that after.
Sorry
Just that my
about
name is
that.
hyphenated. A very small correction, hyphenated last name for me.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. So can we go back to a motion? I wasn't sure who made the motion and who seconded.
I made the motion. Dave made the motion to approve it.
And Scott made the motion to second.
Okay.
second motion.
Okay.
We can say our names, Laura, if that would be helpful. We could like say
That would be much,
Dave-
that would really help. Thank you.
We can do that.
Thank you.
Yeah, yes.
So all in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, no. Motion carried. So next we'll go to the review of the closed session minutes from May 25th, 2018. The Open Meetings Act requires boards to review closed session minutes at least semi-annually. It also states in part that a determination shall be made and reported in open session that the need for confidentiality still exists, or that the minutes no longer require confidential treatment and are available for public inspection. The staff recommends that the closed session minutes for Rails Board meetings of May 25th, 2018 be released as they no longer require confidential treatment. May I have a motion for the release of the closed session minutes as presented?
Jay, so moved.
Dave, second.
All in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, no. Motion carried. Next, we have Jim, who will present the financial report.
Thank you. I'd like to give a few highlights for the month of October. The report is in your book. At the end of October, we had unassigned cash of $10 million in the general fund. That would fund about 10.3 months of operations. We did receive a small area per capita grant payment of $172,619, which pertained to fiscal year 19 in October. Nearly $5.3 million was still outstanding, but we did receive word that this money was going to start moving, and sure enough, the comptroller issued payments of $1,072,500 yesterday. So we're waiting to receive that, and that pertained to the fiscal year 2018 award. We've also recently learned or realized that our area per capita grant allocation for both fiscal year 18 and 19 was increased by $106,000 over what we had anticipated. So that is part of the money that will be hopefully flowing to us in the next few weeks on fiscal year 18, and then also pertain to fiscal year 19. We can use it. So happy to hear that. Our general fund revenues through October were $2,122,000 below budget due to the area per capita grant revenues being under budget, and that will narrow the gap in November. Our general fund expenditures were $311,000 under budget. Almost all cost categories were favorable to budget so far, the largest being personnel, library materials, and contractual services expenditures. Personnel expenditures were under budget, mostly due to delayed hirings of open positions. I believe 4 or 5 of which have been filled, but we had 2 new major vacancies that occurred in November with some resignations. So we'll still continue under budget for a little bit until those positions are filled. And contractual services were about $250,000, I think, under budget last month, but we made a number of LSAP grants last month and narrowed that gap, but we'll still be under budget on that area. And we made one capital expenditure for a new box truck in October. One other item I wanted to mention was on our liability and workers' comp insurance. Paul knows all about this. Our liability rates are slightly increased for next year, maybe 3%, and most of that is a contribution to Lyra's self-insurance fund. And workers' comp rate should be about steady or maybe a small decline is what we're looking for. And that was announced at our Lyra annual meeting earlier this month. So can I answer any questions? Okay.
Okay, hearing no questions, we'll move on to approval of expenditures for October 2018.
And the expenditure detail listing is in the back of the report. And the October expenditures were in the amount of $1,277,660.12. And they were somewhat high this month, the largest expenditure being $167,000 of the LSAP grants that we gave out during the month. And we also made our quarterly payments to Swan and Prairie Cat.
And what was the LSAP grant?
Those were the
Those are the membership grants?
series of membership grants, yes.
Great, oh, that's right, I remember.
Catalog membership grants is
Right.
how we.
That's for the libraries that have been in NIC to join Prairie Cat.
Any questions of the detail?
With no questions, may I have a motion for the approval of the check voucher register for October 2018?
Paul moves.
Daisy seconds. Kind of fun.
Emily, will you call the roll?
Christine Barr. Dave Barry.
Yes.
Gwen Gregory.
Yes.
Liza Hickey.
Yes.
Jay Caston.
Yes.
Paul Mills.
Yes.
Scott Poynton.
Yes.
Daisy Porter Reynolds.
Yes.
Michelle Simmons.
Oh, she's gone
She's
again.
gone again.
Thomas Stagg.
Yes.
Laura Turner.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Jim.
Okay. We will move on to reports, and we will start with the report from the Rails president, and I have no report. So we will move to committee reports. Paul, the consortia committee?
The committee did not meet, ma'am, and I thus have no report.
Okay. The delivery committee did not meet, so I also have no report. And the executive committee did not meet, so no report there. So Paul, back to you for the policy committee.
Just to complete it, ma'am, the policy committee did not meet, and I have no report.
Okay. Well, then we will move to the Rails report and D, the Rails monthly report.
Yes, well, we do have a report. So, first of all, I want to draw your attention to my written report, and specifically that we are working on a video. We did shoot the video. There are some pictures in my report. This is something that it's some pro bono work that's being done, and it's focused on the unserved, but also generally about telling the library story. So I'm hoping that is going to be done in by the end of the year. I think they're hoping to begin promoting it and showing it in the spring. And the only cost that Rails will bear for this is probably some ad space, maybe on Facebook or, some things like that. It will be cheaper than, I think, $4,000. So we're getting quite a great thing, I think, for practically nothing. So that, I'm excited about that. Also, the strategic plan, we're moving on to, push that out to members and, explain it to the members. And we're going to have some fun marketing pieces around that. I also wanted to point out something that's in this month at Rails report, which is about the social media engagement that's rising very steadily. It's quite remarkable how much it's gone up. And I want to thank I know that some of you board members, in addition to staff and members, are actively promoting our posts, and we do appreciate that because it helps with that. Let's see, what else did I want to tell you? We did have the ILA planning, strategic planning session here. It wasn't yesterday, it was Wednesday, and Jay was here, and this was the first session. I do hope that others of you can attend either. I think they're going to have a couple online sessions. I'm hoping that that they may add a couple because there aren't that many in the Rails area. There's going to be another one in Chicago, and then they're doing a lot downstate, which is good, but I wish there were some more sort of out, a little bit farther from us, but still in the Rails area. But I thought it was really good and interesting. Did you have anything you wanted to say about it, Jay? Or
No, it was a lot of different perspectives. There were
Yep.
trustees there, library directors.
Right.
Facilitator was excellent.
I thought very good.
Yes.
Yep, so that's exciting. ILA is a very important partner, yes.
How many people were there? Would you say?
Maybe
11,
11?
I
Okay.
believe 11.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. I mean, this is not the only opportunity that people
Sure.
have had for input, but I do, focus groups do tend to be, I think, more, there was a survey, there was a meeting at ILA that people could go to, but I do think that the focus group tends to kind of delve into things more, so I'm just really glad they had it here. And then I did visit Skokie this week, which I'm going to Skokie Public Library, which I'm going to talk more about on under the diversity topic. So I'd be happy to answer any questions. Anybody has it?
I just have a comment. I am going to attend the ILA strategic session online on Monday.
Good. Great, thank you.
Dee, I enjoyed your podcast with Veranda.
Oh,
So.
good. It was fun. That's it.
Okay. Okay, I know Ann Slaughter usually does the service of the month report, but Dee, did you mention she is not here today?
Yes, this was going to be her turn. We're doing this about different services, but she is out today, so we're going to put that off till next month. Next
January.
January. Okay. Okay, then we will move on to the report from the Illinois State Library.
Good afternoon and greetings from Secretary of State, State Librarian Jesse White, and the staff here at the State Library. As Jim reported, we are pleased that the payments for FY18 have been released to Rails now. They actually acted on that quicker than I thought they might. I thought it would be next week when you would be receiving them. So, but the checks were issued, so we're very happy with that. We have begun well into the FY20 budgeting process as far as projections. The first series of meetings actually occurred this morning regarding what we might anticipate as an agency for FY20 and certainly looking toward sustaining the library and literacy programs as we see them, and that's certainly the goal of the secretary right now. We did just announce the school per capita grants to 694 school districts in the state. That is up significantly from, or participation applicants, that's up significantly from this year. We're very happy about that. It was funding for approximately 1.6 million students across the state. Quick reminders regarding public library per capita grants. Those applications are available online. They are due January 15, as well as the Live and Learn construction grant applications are available, and those are due January 11th here at the State Library. It's been quite a lot of activity here at the State Library since our last meeting, and I do have one rather important announcement. And a surprise, Deb Aggert has announced her retirement to join her husband.
Oh, no.
Departs the banking industry, so it was quite a big shock. So this will be her final meeting with the Rails group. So we're happy for her time here, certainly, and leadership in library development, and big shoes to fill.
Thank you.
So that's
Good luck,
it.
Deb.
Thank you.
We'll miss you.
As will we.
I'm sure.
So that's all from the State Library today. Very brief.
Okay. Well, Deb, congratulations on your retirement. Good luck in the future.
Thank you.
And with that, we will move on to new business and staffing changes. This is a discussion only from Dee.
Yes, thank you. So there's a memo in your packet, but just to sort of summarize and maybe a little extra info. So as Jim pointed out, we did have a couple of major resignations in November. Veranda Pitchford and Louise Sabela, who worked for Joe. Both great contributors and colleagues. We miss them. But life goes on, and Rails goes on. And so, like you in your libraries, we don't ever just fill a position without looking at the job description and thinking about what's needed and the future and et cetera. And, particularly since we just completed our strategic plan, the timing was is very apropos. So we haven't made any final decisions yet, but we are getting closer, I think, to aligning our needs and member needs with what our staffing should be in terms of filling these positions. So as I say in the packet, there's a lot more demand for our services. There's a lot more varied demand for our services than when Veranda was hired in February of 2013. That was a long time ago in the lifetime of Rails. And her job really became huge. And I think at this point we realize that some of the things that she worked on need to probably fit in a different place, and then in some other areas some new needs have arisen. So essentially, we're looking at a sort of a smaller footprint for resource sharing or resource development and resource and program development, which is really what that department mostly has done, dealing with cooperative purchases and new programs like Explore More and managing and growing the e-read program. We think that the consulting questions, I mean, that's, when we get questions from members, that's really what they are. You know, what do we do about this issue about a library card? What do we do about this issue about a trustee? What do we do about this law? Do we have, you know, are we doing the right thing in how we're applying this law or this this regulation? And we have at times sort of been not at cross purposes at all, but sort of, you know, different people get the call and there was no like sort of central place that they went. So, because sometimes they went to Veranda, sometimes they came to me, sometimes they went to Joe. So I think, you know, putting them all in consulting and continuing education is going to be more efficient. It'll help us to close our loop around that. And so we think we'll probably hire 2 people in that department to both, you know, to work both on CE and consulting. And then we really think that we need to hire somebody to help us with data collection and analysis. We collect a lot of data, and we don't always do as much with it as we could or should. We're adding to that with the standards. That's going to be a lot of very important data, and it's sort of lived in different places, and we've sort of, on an ad hoc basis, me in particular, what's that data again? I was always asking Anne for information about LSAPs and consortia, usually like a very similar question as I asked the previous time. So I think this is going to be very helpful to us in terms of, you know, putting in one place like certification and standards and information that we need, that we gather now from the LSAPs or the consortia related to the support grants. So that piece, and then also I think we need to look at the IT department. I think we need some assistance there in developing and working with the, you know, custom software that libraries deal with. I mean, it's really all kind of falls to Wes, and you know, Wes has the job of being the IT manager, not being the programmer or developer. So that's our thinking at this point. We haven't posted anything. We're working on the job descriptions. And you're probably thinking, well, you're filling more positions than were left vacant. That's true. I think we are thinking that we will be lowering the grade of the position that Veranda was in. Probably not, at least for the time being, not filling the position that Amanda was in. And you know, saving some money that way, but yeah, spending some more money. You know, somewhere, you know, more than $100,000, but not much more than that. So, but this all, I mean, we're still figuring this out, but I think it'll make Rails a more effective organization and therefore better for members. I think it, you know, in terms of the, you know, the data analysis, and the consulting and CE, these go right to, you know, helping the library, you know, in the strategic plan, helping libraries be the best they can be, telling the library story. Certainly data is a huge part of that. And, you know, so I think that having a person on staff who can do that not only for us, but for our member libraries will be really great, because not many libraries can afford the position on their own. So it will be a great member service, as also a service to us. So that's our thinking right now. Happy to answer any questions. Or
Are all these positions you're considering full-time positions?
yes.
And again, can you just tell me how many more are you looking to hire that have resigned? And if you don't have it?
No, I do. I absolutely do. It's just a question of, it's right here. No, I do. So, 3 vacancies, 4 hires.
Oh, okay.
And you think that's about a net $100,000 increase in the salary budget?
Pardon me?
that a net increase of 100,000 in the
Yeah.
salary budget? That's what you said?
Yeah, somewhere around that. I mean, obviously, we'll be saving money this year because they won't all be filled and we have vacancies, but, you know, the operational expense will be that much. We don't, the one that is most difficult to guess at is the developer. That tends to be very expensive. We've tried contracting for that work, and as I understand from Ann and from Jane, and it really isn't very effective, and it's more expensive that way, you know, on a per job basis.
It'd be wonderful to have that expertise in-house.
Yeah,
It
I
really
think
would.
I'm really excited about the data analysis because I think that that's just something that, like I say, we just don't do enough of that. And it will help us with our evaluation, you know, in terms of the impact of our services, all those things that we've been working on, but this will make it better.
And with one last question, in regards to like programming, better to keep everything in-house than contract out for it?
Well, we've been doing that. We've been contracting out. I don't have a lot of, you know, deeper information about that. We can certainly get it for you. If that would be, I don't know,
No,
do you
that's
have
okay.
anything,
Yeah.
Jane?
Well, the one example that came to mind was when we were trying to develop some sort of program or method that would allow libraries to print delivery labels from different ILSs. Tried several
Good
different
example.
approaches and were not successful, including in-house in that case. But yeah, contracting did not work.
Okay, thank you.
So you'll be hearing more about that. I don't know about, you know, it's not the greatest timing for hiring, so I'm not sure exactly how we'll handle that. But in terms of it, you know, November, December.
Okay, thank you, Dee. Next we have sorry. Oh, okay. Sorry. Executive Director goals expanded. Discussion and action requested. And I think this is Dee.
Yes, so in looking over previous board documents, I found goals that, well, I was looking at my review in order to see how I was doing and discovered that there were a lot of suggestions from the board last year, May, June, for goals. And so I thought that I should add them. And I was, as I said, interested to see how many of them, of the additions, we've actually already been, you know, talking about at the board meetings related to, you know, discussing the diversity and representation of the board, et cetera. So I just thought they should all be officially approved, unless you want to do something different. They all make sense to me. That I included both the ones you approved and then the revised edition, so you can see. They're really not as much longer as, there were 8 and now there's 14, so it's not, just because it's typed differently, it's not as much more as you think. So, if you want to approve it, or if you want to amend it.
So the list of 8 is what you're adding? Or
No, that's what you approved.
Already had.
And then the one that says Executive Director Goals FY 2019 revised, that's the new one that includes the 8.
Okay.
The wording might be slightly different, but it's all there.
Sure.
Dee, I agree with your comment in writing that these eerily match what we've been discussing at board meetings. I, for one, like the goals and would move to accept them if now is the right time for that.
Second. Jay, second.
That was Daisy moving.
Yes.
I got it this time. Okay, so all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carried. Okay, we will move on to unfinished business and board diversity discussion by Dee.
It's me again, yes. So, so as I said earlier, I did go up and visit Richard Kong in Skokie earlier in the week, and as I had said at the last board meeting that I thought I would do, I thought Richard would be a great person to talk to about the diversity, equity, and inclusion topic, because I know that he has been doing a lot of work on that issue at his library and in his community. I don't know if you, I know a lot of you know Richard, not everyone does, but he has been the director there not that long, maybe 2 years, year and a half, but he's really a great guy and very thoughtful. I have a lot of respect for him. In any case, our conversation was about what Skokie has been doing, and then a little bit about what what we've been discussing at Rails and what Rails might do also for libraries in terms of the equity, diversity, and inclusion. Because I think, as was you, Gwen, who pointed out last time that, or I don't remember who, but when we were talking about diversity, it's a big topic. Diversity is a lot of different things. It's not just type of library. It's not just racial or ethnic or gender. It's a lot of different things. It's economic, etc. But it's not just about, and I guess, and it was Richard who also really made this point very strongly, that just strictly speaking, representation isn't enough. That the people have to really, the decision making has to be diverse as well. So Skokie is actually 40% foreign born, so it's not just 40% of a different ethnicity, but foreign born. And so they have been working on this a lot with the community. They're not the only organization that's been doing that. And the library has a staff committee that oversees equity and diversity and inclusion. And they've been working with a consultant for about 3 years or so, and they have a contract with this consultant to meets with them, meets with the staff, trains the staff regularly on all the aspects of the many aspects, which I by no means know what they all are, of the diversity issue. For example, they have a word of the month, and I'm not exactly sure. I did write back and ask what they do with this word of the month, but every month they have this word and they must talk about it and meet. And he said that this has very much impacted how they do community engagement. He said that they felt that they needed to get their own house in order first, and so that's one of the reasons that they hired this consultant. And it has helped them to develop kind of a shared understanding and a way of talking about diversity. And that there is a group in Skokie called Skokie Cares. That's a group of community leaders, including Richard, that have worked on a lot of projects. They're actually thinking of creating a position in the library to be the equity, diversity, and inclusion director. And he said that despite all of Skokie's resources, and they have many financial resources as well as a great engaged and passionate community, they didn't know where to start in terms of this whole topic. And so he is sure that smaller, less well-funded, etc. libraries would also not know where to start. And so he thinks that Rails could be very, assistive in that way. So I've been thinking a lot about this, and I think it's apropos of our discussion about the board diversity as well. And I do think that it is a topic, it certainly came up a lot, again, in our strategic plan. And I think it's, and Joe and I have talked about it too, in terms of how we might help libraries, as well as, ourselves, sort of work with their communities around this issue. So it was a very great conversation, and I'm looking forward to having more conversations with him and with the staff and with the board about this topic. Happy to answer any questions.
I was just curious, do you know what consultant they're using?
Yes, her name is Corey Wallace. She's local.
She's independent, not part of a firm that they're contracted with.
I don't know that. They've also, Richard is also on the board of the Public Library Association, and PLA has done a lot of work in this area with a group called the Arcus Group. Mia Henry is her name, is the consultant there. ARCUS, the Arcus Center. This issue came up at the ILA strategic planning. What's ILA's responsibility in this area? And it was an interesting conversation because, and I had a follow-up conversation with the director next day or a couple days later from the ILA session, because, she was wondering, she was saying that she doesn't think that her community would be open to conversations about diversity and equity and inclusion. And what do you do in that case? Even when you have those issues in your community, what does the library do about that? And I have no real answer to that, but I think that's a question for all of us. And I think, Richard said, I called him up and I said, what do you say? What about that? And he said, that he hears that a lot. We don't necessarily think it's an issue for us. I'm saying we, the general we, but that's maybe it's not true necessarily. I don't know. I'm just telling you about the information that I've been gathering, and I guess I probably don't need to say, but as you can imagine, Richard was making the point that, it's about the bigger world that we live in, which certainly could use some, the words that, they use in Skokie are compassion and accountability, and I think those are pretty good words for a lot of topics. Very interesting and very thought-provoking for me, and really glad that it is one of my goals to look into this. So, happy to answer questions, comments, anything, suggestions for follow-up.
Well, I think that's really great, Dee, that you went and visited with Richard. It sounds like he had some great information. What do you think the board should do? What would some actions the board might take to work on this or encourage this?
I don't know. It's up to you. We can talk about that.
Before we go, it's kind of like, is there a generally accepted definition of diversity? I think before we go on, we have to figure out what does that mean to this board before we put any resources and time into looking forward to it. I can see having a discussion about what that word means, but until we decide that, we're getting a little bit before the horse. Because some people go up this way, others another way. That's my only comment, just off the top of my head.
Mm-hmm.
I think Laura's got a comment too.
Oh, yes.
Oh, my comment, or a couple of my thoughts are, as a board member, I would be interested in learning more, maybe like hearing from an expert or getting some training around the topic of diversity in libraries. I don't know if we could possibly ever have a guest speaker, if if other board members would be interested in hearing that or interested in doing that. And then I kind of see maybe a little farther down the road offering some training through like L2 and that type of thing. I feel like I don't really know. I know the basics of the topic, but I don't know enough, and I'd like to hear from somebody who does know more than I do.
So I think that Richard Kong might be a potential guest speaker. I believe that Evanston Public Library has also, as part of a settlement, agreed to look at diversity in Evanston as far as the library goes. So,
Well, another option is that the American Library Association also has a office of diversity, and they are here, so we could get like someone there.
Yep. Which could maybe help us with the definition.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yes, and I mean, Richard was actually, he was telling me he was working on doing a program he's doing something for Indian Trails, so. So I think, the reason that I think this is important is that I think it's an issue for our libraries too. I mean, I'm not just, it's not just about the board. I mean, that's what struck me when speaking with him, and then when at the ILA planning session. It's like, oh yeah, libraries. I mean, whatever your situation might be, whether you're small or big community or different types of libraries, there's a lot of noise about this topic right now, just in general, and so I think as I say, it certainly came up in the strategic plan, like very specifically, how do we deal with the ever-growing, diversity and changing needs of our patrons? That's what the libraries are saying.
Right, and I'll just add.
Go ahead, Laura.
I just wanted to add that this is actually a big issue at Caterpillar, and when we give presentations, both internally and externally, we're required to start each presentation with a slide about diversity and inclusion that says that we support diversity and inclusion and welcome the voices of many participants. That's like our standard now for all of our PowerPoints. So I think it's an issue that's even in some ways beyond the library world, that it's in the business world
absolutely.
and in other areas too. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Yes. I think we're just starting to
Right.
feel it in some ways. Yeah.
Right.
I was just going to say, I think it would be important to have conversations, brainstorm, however you want to describe it, to set goals, like concrete goals.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Yeah.
I'm all for diversity, but I don't want to just have us sit around and talk about it a lot, but not really do anything.
Yes.
There needs to be things we do versus just sitting around and endlessly discussing it. Cause then,
Oh,
good, Scott. Yes.
yeah. I'm never a fan of.
No, I,
Yeah.
I understand, but
But yeah, no, but it is the kind of issue that is hard to know what to do. As Richard said, where do you start too, and what's the definition? And, yeah.
Yeah.
But I think, clearly in my mind, there is a training component, that we're an information component, just, for us as well as for our libraries. Right, Joe? I mean, in fact, we're having a workshop next month, from the Perception Institute about implicit bias, among other things. So, but you're all
So
welcome
when maybe one of our steps is to develop some goals.
Sure.
Well, identify problems to solve.
Mhm.
Could you have sent to the board just links from the organization, that both the consultant you mentioned that Richard's using, and also the organization that PLA is using, and also
Yep.
Joe just mentioned, and I'd like to read their,
Yep.
read what they have to say.
Yep.
That'd be great.
And maybe the ALA stuff.
Yep. And Richard sent me some documents too that I'll, you got it.
Sounds good.
Also, I suppose an early goal could be to have someone come and talk to us about it.
Right. That's easy, actually. Yeah. we'll work on that too, so.
Well, it's good to have a goal that's easy to.
Well, that part. All right, well, I think that's it for my agenda items.
Okay.
You.
Thank you, Dee. So next we have Christine Barr, who has prepared a report on school libraries.
And I thank you. And I included the report in the packet, and I basically just gave a Reader's Digest version of what happens every day at a school and how we take care of things on our end. So one of the important things that I highlighted is this Linking for Learning document, and this is published by ISLE, which is the Association of Illinois School Library Educators. We just recently changed our name to this. It used to be ISLAMA, but now we are ISLE. And this document is a very comprehensive guide for how school libraries can or should run. So if you're interested in taking a peek at that, you're welcome to. As far as funding is concerned, I think it's an interesting dynamics. In my particular case, the schools receive money from the district, and so then the principal sets the library budget. So I have nothing to do with that except for thank you. Here's some money to spend. So then we of course rely on the state library grants, which thank you very much. Those are always appreciated by all of us, and as well as some creative funding like book fair proceeds and Grandparents' Day. There's just all kinds of ways that we try to increase our funding so we can support our curriculum and needs of our staff and students. In 2015, President Obama signed the Every Student Succeeds Act, and so ISB set a round of listening tours that school librarians attended and we spoke at to make sure that there was language included that school libraries needed to be part of this, and certified school librarians should be in every school because we have the largest classroom in the school and we serve staff, students, parents, everybody, and so it's very important. Our role is very important, and it's important that we're recognized. One of the new movements that's occurring is the Future Ready Libraries, and this didn't fare very well in my bag from ISLE. It's a little beat up, but this is, and I put a link to it also, so if you click on the link, you can see that this wheel is kind of everything that we encompass as a school library and what we do, and it's the outer portions of the wheel are just examples of what we do within those wedges or pieces of the pie, however you want to describe it. There's different ones. It's huge what we do. So I'd be happy to answer any questions if you have any. Yes.
So I'm just curious, and if you don't know this, that's fine.
Yeah.
The part about the funding.
Mm-hmm.
Does it ever happen that a school takes in the grants and just counts that as part of the school's income, and not every dollar that goes to the school library?
I can't speak for other school districts, but for our district, we get the grant. So we get a memo from the district that says, congratulations, here's your portion to spend from the state. So Is that what you're asking about?
Yeah, so like if they gave you $5,000, you get the whole $5,000 for the
correct.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I hope that's how it works everywhere.
I do too. I do too. I can't say
I doubt
for sure.
it.
Yeah.
They're probably just putting that some places as just part of the school's income, and then that's funding what they were already giving. Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
Uh-huh.
Is there a benchmark of how much library funds should be per student in the state?
That is a great question. I would have to do some research. Maybe you know.
Data. See,
I
we
know.
need data.
Hire that data person. That is a great question. I would have to get back to you on that.
Well, no, that you asked.
No, it's a great question.
Is there a school library version of the Serving Our Public?
That's it.
This is
sorry, I don't mean to, I am intimately familiar with this.
Yeah.
The green version,
Yes.
green cover,
Mhm.
we used it for the standards. The
Yeah.
standards incorporated a lot of the language from Linking for Learning.
Mhm.
Yep.
Yeah.
Because the library I represent has 7 grade schools that are independent feeding into the high school.
Oh, wow.
So, I mean, if I'm just trying, if the schools, each individual one, it'd be nice to know what that number is, to see
Right.
how close they are to what the standard.
Right. Now, I know for like our school funding, in my particular district, I think we get $11 a kid. I mean, that's basically how they, divide our budget.
School year?
But that doesn't include, well, I don't know, does that include your staffing, or is that just the?
That's just to run the school. That does not include the staffing for our particular school. But I can only speak for Geneva. I can't speak for, other districts.
So then that pays for books and programming?
So the pot of money that my school gets, it takes care of paper and printing costs, which is usually half the budget. And then there's like a little portion for the library, a little portion for, special programming, or that type of thing. So the principal has a really tough job of divvying all that out.
But the $11 per student goes into a pot, and then that pot covers printing,
all
books, but not salaries.
Correct.
And how much do you get for books?
So my total budget, she just looked together for books and cataloging and supplies, I get $3,500, which that's actually pretty good for a school library. So I'm very fortunate.
In your elementary?
Correct. Mm-hmm. Yes.
So do you know how many schools in Illinois or in Rail actually have libraries? Like what percentage?
Oh.
Libraries or librarians?
Librarians?
So like a room with some books in it, or like a library?
Well, it would be interesting to know both,
Right.
because I mean, I know there's schools that have no library, nothing, but then
Right.
there's some that maybe have something, or.
I don't know the exact
IO might know,
percentage.
right?
Yeah.
We can look into that too.
Mhm.
I told Chris that I would also provide you with some information about the work we did on standards, because we spent a talking about school libraries. And IL is working with ILA right now on a bill in the legislature to require school librarians, as I recall it, require licensed school librarian schools. Now, I was of the understanding, and correct me if I'm wrong, and I don't know, the state library might know too, or somebody else. I thought that school librarians, there was a requirement for school librarians, at least in the district, in a district. That ISBE, Illinois State Board of Education, does not enforce that. Is that correct?
I believe you're correct. I know that like for instance, Caneland School District, they do not have any librarians in their schools, but they do have somebody at their central office that handles, something. But it's probably just more of a, let's order these books for this school, but there's no actual thought process. There's thought process behind it, but they don't know somebody that doesn't intimately know the curriculum or
is not there to provide instruction or
exactly.
do anything.
Right.
Or you could have a really large district and have someone, but that wouldn't be doing much in the individual schools.
True.
Right.
Apparently there was a report, and I can forward you this too, which is the Illinois Evidence-Based Funding for Student Success. Research summaries contributing to the current recommendations, which appears to be about recommending librarians, for example. Here, do you want the link? It looked like you were looking that up.
I was actually looking at Future Ready.
Oh, okay. One librarian position for each typical school, and assistant/media tech for every 300 students. So it has those kinds of recommendations. Now, whether anything will happen with this, It's hard to know. And I mean, there's been a lot of research done on the effect of school libraries, the positive effect.
Absolutely.
Unfortunately, not much has been done, going back to your,
Right.
you know, previous comment about not just talking about something, but doing something about it.
Christine, you mentioned your budget is $3,500.
Yeah.
Do you get any other funding, the library get any other funding through the course of the year, through any monies that the district grants or acts or whatever?
Just grants. So the state library grant, we also receive a career and technical education something grant.
And that's all in the $3,500?
That's in addition.
Okay.
Yeah, in addition.
Okay.
And then, like this year fair, so I received $1,000 from the book fair to spend at the book fair, and which is it's great,
Yeah,
you know. But
right,
it's
yeah.
cool. And so yeah, so then there's just some creative ways.
Thank you.
Sure.
I had a question about Future Ready.
Yeah.
I was just, you know, the about grade.
Yeah.
In particular, I was kind of curious, you know, would you happen to know what the curriculum is for teaching students about data and privacy?
Yes, so it's mandated by the state that we teach digital citizenship and internet safety in grades 3 through 12. And so we use the Common Sense Media curriculum. They have a really great free curriculum that we use to teach those skills to our kids. So, yeah, and we try to, well, we always do incorporate that whenever we do research or anything like that. We always try to build those skills into that as well.
Yes.
Common Sense Media.
Thank you.
Yep, sure. Yeah.
Kristen, we all, I think, are probably familiar with how expensive databases are to subscribe to.
Yeah.
So does that have to come out of your 3,500, or is that somehow, is the school covering that some other way?
Right. So at the high school level, the school district supplies school and the middle school level, and at the elementary level, we only have one database that we just got this year. So we don't really have a whole lot at the elementary level. Fortunately, our district office takes care of that. But that's not I mean, it's different with every school, you know.
Pretty
It's just-
special.
yeah,
this
we're
way.
very fortunate.
Yeah. You have a librarian in every.
Yeah, full-time certified librarian in every school. Elementary level we have 10-hour assistants, and then middle and high school each have, high school has 2 full-time, and middle school has 1. We are not the norm
Right.
by any means.
Unfortunately.
Yeah.
Do you know offhand of any of the classrooms in like the elementary schools, if the classrooms have their own little libraries?
They do, yeah. All the teachers have their own classroom library. Yeah, and a lot of times when I weed books, like if I have multiple copies of award books, I give them out to the classroom library. Any other questions?
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate the opportunity
yes,
to
thank you.
speak about it.
Thank you.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, thank you, Christine.
Sure.
Okay, board member reports. Anyone have anything they would like to share from what's happening at their library?
Do you, Laura? How was yesterday?
I do, yeah, I just didn't want to.
Okay.
Didn't want to do it.
Okay.
Yes. So yesterday, Emily and Dan Bostrom, we had a SLA Rails special library event. And I thought it went really well. We had a little bit smaller group than we anticipated, probably because of the weather. It snowed and we're in central Illinois. But I think we had a great discussion. We had some next steps that Dan is going to be working on implementing. So really happy for the support from Rails and SLA in making that event happen. It was just another kind of example of some good conversations.
Great.
Anyone
Well,
else
this
have
isn't
anything
exactly-
they'd like to share? Oh, go ahead.
Well, so this is Gwen. This isn't really from my library, but I was able to participate with Dan in 2 recent events that were for academic libraries in Rails that were very successful, and many academic librarians showed up as the academic library board rep, and so got to meet people and talk to them and try and tell them about what Rails does, and so I think they were very effective and much appreciated by the people who attended.
Mm-hmm.
Our library, our teen board has been discussing bullying and things like that, and we've entered into a understanding with the psychology department of Bradley University and speakers for the teen board and the teen functions to come talk about that at the library. It's been
great.
Pretty successful. And also, we were talking to Dan earlier, the Moline Area Library is actually going to meet in Franklin for their Moline Area meetup this coming time. So.
Anyone else? Okay, we will move on to agenda building for the next board meeting. So there is no meeting in December, and the next Rails board meeting is January 18th. And this will be a week earlier due to ALA Midwinter Conference, so just something to make notice. And it will be in Burr Ridge. Does anyone have any items or suggestions for the January board meeting, agenda item suggestions? I think we're ready for our holiday break. That's what I'm hearing.
Well, if we're not having any big items, that maybe we could line up a kind of speaker or something by then.
Yep.
For ourselves.
Yeah. And
sure.
I took a quick website on diversity. They have a lot of stuff there. I think that might be a good place to start looking for some support, suggestions for a speaker, that type of thing.
Okie dokie.
All right. Hearing no other suggestions for agenda building for the next meeting, and no other comments, we will adjourn this meeting at 2:08. Thank you for your attendance. I hope you all have a wonderful holiday season. I didn't do that, so let me officially call this meeting to adjournment at 2:08.
Thank you, Laura.
Bye, Laura.
Thank you.
Bye.